Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to the August episode of the Toolbox DIY Home Maintenance Guide. This month in Atlanta, it is either hot outside or it's raining. So we're gonna stay inside again this month, and it's another short month. This month we'll be in the kitchen to do some appliance inspection and cleaning. Before that though, we do our 5 routine tasks that we do every month. I'm not gonna cover them this month. I've covered them in detail all the previous months. So if you're new to this series, check the description down below. I'll include a link so you can get acquainted with those 5 routine tasks. Also, now's a good time to click subscribe and the notification bell so you get notified of future episodes as they are released. Okay, let's get started in the kitchen this month. The first place we're gonna start this month is at the refrigerator. And we're gonna start with a thermometer, a fridge or freezer thermometer. We wanna put those in each compartment, let them get up to temp so we can see if our refrigerator and our freezer are performing as expected. It's gonna take some time for those thermometers to get to temperature. So after you put those inside, let's shift our focus over to the dishwasher. At the dishwasher, we're gonna do some cleaning and inspecting. I start by removing the filters and cleaning both of those in the sink. Next, I'm gonna mix up a cleaning solution of 50% vinegar, 50% water, and I'm gonna use that to clean the seals first. While I'm cleaning the seals, I'm also doing an inspection. I'm looking for any tears or rips. I'm also gonna clean the inside of the dishwasher. I'm gonna focus on the sprayer outlets. I wanna make sure that those aren't clogged. While I'm at it, I'm also gonna clean up the detergent dispenser. And then lastly, I'm gonna put everything back together and I'm gonna run the dishwasher on a regular cycle with just 1 cup of vinegar in a dishwasher safe container on the bottom rack. Now let's shift our focus over to the range and the range hood. If you have electric burners, you're gonna wanna check those for any cracks. I recommend turning each burner on the maximum temperature and checking for any cold spots. Just check these visually. You wanna see a nice even glow around the burner. If you have a gas burner such as this, you want to check the burner elements for any cracks or obstructions. If everything looks good there, reassemble it and start each burner. We want to see a nice uniform flame around that burner. Now let's shift our focus upward to the range hood. Many of us have some sort of filter in our range hood. If you have a removable filter that can be cleaned, go ahead and remove those and clean them. If you have a filter that's supposed to be replaced, like a charcoal filter, now's a great time to replace that. While I'm in there, I check my blower motor. Usually there's a drip pan connected to these. We want to check that to see if it needs to be cleaned. Mine usually gets a decent amount of grease in there, so I'm going to want to go ahead and clean that. While I'm at it, I'm also going to inspect the wiring. Sometimes we get some flare-ups on the range and we may not realize that a flame got up into the range hood so high that it may have melted a wire. We want to check for that and make sure that we don't have a dangerous situation. While we're at it, we're also going to check for any grease buildup and take care of any cleaning that's necessary to keep this thing functioning to the best of its ability. Now, if your range hood vents outside, you're also going to want to check the outlet on the outside. If you don't use your range hood very often, it's possible that an animal may have built a nest in there, which is a bad situation, but it's just a good idea at least once a year to check that for any obstructions. Now let's move back to the refrigerator. By now, our thermometers are probably at temperature. We want to check those and make sure they're where we expect them to be. I like to set my fridge at 37 degrees and the freezer at 0 degrees. Now you want to make sure that the temperature measured is within a degree or 2 of where you actually set it. If it's off by a couple of degrees, you can just change the setting. If it's off wildly, like 10 degrees, then you may have a problem and you may need to call an appliance repair specialist to have a look at that. Also at the fridge, we want to clean and inspect our seals, much like we did with the dishwasher. So I'm going to take the same solution and go ahead and clean both refrigerator and freezer seals. Now, look what I found. This is exactly why we do these inspections at least once a year. Now, this isn't a bad tear. It's probably not leaking any air, but rather than wait for it to get worse, I'm going to go ahead and order a new seal and replace that. Also at the fridge, we want to vacuum our refrigerator coils. Some fridges, those are in the front, and others it's in the back. You want to basically vacuum the vent cover, pull that off, and then vacuum the coils that are inside. Mine are actually in the rear, but there's not enough space back there for a camera, barely enough space for the vacuum, but you get the idea with what I'm doing here in the front. Before we move on to the next task, let me take a break and talk about what to do if you find a problem with one of your appliances. If it's something simple like a seal or a busted plastic piece, that's something you can probably fix yourself. If it's something more complicated, like it's just not operating, then that's something that you may want to call a professional for. If you decide to do it yourself, I find it's best to get your parts at a local supply house because oftentimes the staff is quite helpful and they give you pointers on how to change those parts. If you call a service to have an appliance repaired, I recommend learning as much about the problem as you can and telling them which components you think need to be replaced. If you have a good repair service, they're going to go ahead and load the truck up with parts that you may need. Okay, our last task, and certainly not the least, is to inspect our gas lines and gas valves if we have gas appliances in the kitchen. We want to check the gas lines for any cracks. We want to check fittings for any corrosion. We also want to operate every valve to make sure that those are still working. If you find any problem in this area, I highly recommend hiring a professional to fix this. It's not something that you want to play around with because gas is explosive and flammable. Unless you have significant experience with gas lines and gas fittings, leave this one to the pros. Okay, everyone, that is it for the month of August. I told you it would be relatively short, so we can get back to the summer fun. September gets a little busier as we enter the fall maintenance season. But like I said in episode 1, I'm going to try to spread this out over the months so we don't get too busy in any one month. Well, thanks for joining me. I hope to see you back here for September. Enjoy the rest of your summer, Toolbox DIYers. I'm Chris with Toolbox DIY. Thanks for watching.